take a break even, and by that point you're like, oh my god, my strategy does not work anymore. I'm going to go back to the drawing board and figure out what I need to change to make my strategy start working again.
Funding meant for traders, Mentfunding.
Hello and welcome to the Mentfunding YouTube channel. So for my first video here, what I've decided to do is a video to go through about a common challenge that a lot of traders probably face in the space, and that is basically the challenge of, well, it's kind of two things put together. Thing number one is taking all the trades that you think are in line with your plan. You're getting break evens, you're getting losses, and then you think, right, I need to figure out why I'm getting these break evens and why I'm getting these losses. And then you end up stepping away from the live markets, and then you see your actual initial plan gives you loads of wins that you're now not involved in because you've gone back to the drawing board. And then thing number two is that you are confident in your trading plan. You know when a trade is setting up in line with your plan. You know that the outcome is either going to be a loss, it could be a win, it could be a break even, but you just in your mind cannot get yourself to actually take the trade for whatever reason. And in this video, I'm going to focus on both and how you can put some mechanisms in place and maybe even take some ideas from this video. So let's get started. So this actually all stemmed from this message right here that was sent over a few days ago. So one of our members in the mentfx Discord community, as part of the mentorship here, said, "What's good, Dan? Quick question. I'll have you know that my trading is currently at another level from where it's ever been. I've been profitable forward testing on demo for 2 months now. I even disappeared from the group a bit recently to transition from SSC confirms to ICI. SSC and ICI is something that is taught in the actual mentorship itself, not the Mentfunding channel. So if you want to have a look at the mentfx mentorship, have a look at the description down below and there will be a link in there. Look at that after this video though. So one problem that he's facing is that he's missing setups that meet his plan, whether they win or lose. And some setups are not being taken, and he's got some reasons as to why he thinks that may be. Some days he'll go through all of these emotional swings where he forgets basically everything that's in line with his plan. And he's fine with that because he knows that he will always come back stronger, which is perfect. But when he's met with these feelings in the moment, he won't enter any trading protection of his account balance. Basically what he's saying here is that, let's say he's got the perfect trade setting up, the trade's perfect, the entry is fantastic, his biases are lining up, and everything looks fantastic. He draws out the risk to reward tool on TradingView, and then when it comes to pressing the execute button, he freezes, he doesn't do it, and he just watches the trade play out without him, whether that is a trade that goes for a huge win or a loss. He's not in it. He says maybe it's because he doesn't want to take a loss. And then he asked me a few questions here that I'll cover further on down. He can recognize that the trade actually meets his plan though, he just fails to actually take it. Cool, so he asked me a few questions. He asked me if I've ever experienced this before and if this is a problem, whether he takes trades or not during his off days. And he also says that he sees the pros of not trading in a bad mental state. I'm going to quickly scroll down to the reply that I sent to him, which is here. It's quite a lengthy reply, so feel free to pause and have a read through it first, or just feel free to, take my verbatim of it. The first few points I mentioned here is that you kind of have to be able to take the losses to take the wins. Your strike rate is never going to be 100%. Stop believing what you see on social media. I gave a bit of a real life example, which is what I kind of wanted to showcase more in this video. So if we head over to my journal real quick, and I'm just going to zoom in so you guys can see a bit better. So those are the outcomes of my last 30 trades. And what I kind of want to focus on here is the sequence of the wins, the sequence of the losses, and the sequence of the break evens. So what you'll notice here is that I never normally take huge winning streaks like this. This was like a one-off that happened just, out of nowhere. It happens. And then after that, this is what my normal trading tends to look like. However, if I've not done the back testing of, 500 to 1,000 to 2,000 trades, how do I know that this is either going to happen or not going to happen? How do I know whether either something's going terribly wrong in my execution of my plan, or if it's actually just something that is to be expected? And when I was taking these break evens, I was expecting them. I knew that was going to happen. And when I was taking that loss, I knew more losses were going to come. Was I expecting these wins to happen? Absolutely not. Whenever you have a large impulse in an equity curve, you're more likely than not often met with some sideways movement on your equity curve before your equity curve then continues higher. So my tip here is that, first of all, you need to stick to your plan. And in your plan, you have to write something that says that if your trade meets your criteria, you have to take it. It's non-negotiable. You need to build a mental resilience to be able to take these positions on your account now, because by the time you get funded with large accounts, for example, with Ment Funding, we've got huge accounts up to $2 million, ranging all the way down from $25,000. If you're taking break-evens and losses and you're not expecting those break-evens and losses, your mindset is going to be all over the place. So by the time the wins actually happen, you miss out on the wins. How many times now has this happened to you guys? So you're taking a loss, you're like, okay, cool, the next trade is going to be a win. You take a break even, and by that point, you're like, oh my God, my strategy does not work anymore. I'm going to go back to the drawing board and figure out what I need to change to make my strategy start working again. Your next trade that you would have took if you stuck to your initial plan, a win, a 7% win or a 7R win. And then before you know it, you miss another win and you're like, oh my God, if I actually stuck to that initial plan, I would have now been up how much? I would have been up 11.95. Okay, let me just pan your attention back to the Ment Funding pass requirement. The requirement is 10%. You would have passed your Ment Funding account by taking 9 break-evens and 2 wins. You would have passed the account. So that's one way of basically self-sabotage, is by not sticking to your plan and not having trust in your plan enough to let the sequence of trades play out, right? So that's thing number one that you have to focus on, is just sticking to the trades that actually set up. If they set up in line with your plan, don't stop yourself from taking it. Remember that good trading strategies would either have a low win rate, high risk to reward, or you'll have a good trading strategy that might have a high win rate and a low risk to reward. So now he also asked me some questions that I said I was going to cover. So he said question number one is there a problem that he's not taking trades during days that he's feeling off, even though he knows it meets his plan? So the first thing that I kind of ask here is, well, if you know that a trade is meeting your plan whilst it's happening, you're obviously watching the live markets. So how much more effort does it actually require for you to just take the trade? If the trade's there, it meets your plan, it meets all aspects of your plan, not in line with any upcoming news, it's not outside of your trading session if you trade sessions, it's within your supply and demand zone if you trade supply and demand, it's within your support and resistance levels if you trade support and resistance. If it's within your trading plan, why are you not taking the trade? Because in backtesting, I best believe you will be taking that trade, so you need to replicate that in the live markets. So I answered that and I said the answer basically depends on how many days off you're actually having. So you could be taking too many days off that you're not even letting your strategy properly play out, and that links back heavily to what I said here. Or you could be taking 1 or 2 days off in a month that you can get away with perfectly fine. For example, like, you might have a family event you have to go to. Obviously during that day you're probably not going to trade, especially if you're on the lower time frames. So stuff like that is to be expected, but consciously making the decision on not to take a trade, even though you know it's meeting your trading plan and you can see it setting up, is detrimental. And why is it detrimental? Because of the example I've shared with you a couple of minutes ago. The second question that you ask as well is, did you feel this in my experience? And do you still feel this now? Or do you just execute your trades? And I said to him, honestly, on days where I'm absolutely ill in bed, my laptop's with me. I'll watch maybe 1 or 2 pairs rather than my normal 5 to 6 pairs I tend to watch in a day when I'm doing normally. So that's a physical off day when I'm physically in. When I'm in a mental struggle for the day, whether that be mental health, external factors, family stuff, personal life, whatever it could be, I've got myself to a point now where I can switch all that off and focus purely on the charts and trading. And that's not done by magic. That's done by understanding that my sequence of wins and losses are not dictated by anything other than the market. The market will dictate that. It's not dictated by the day that I'm having a good day or a bad day. Your sequence of wins, losses, and break-evens are random. Your consistency in making sure that your trade meets all aspects of your plan is something that just has to be done. That cannot be random. That's non-negotiable. Okay, and I basically said here as well, this is a bit of a tip that I gave myself when I was taking trades out of my plan when I was first starting as well. This is actually something that I noticed in backtesting that is If I take a trade outside of my plan, so let's say I've got my trading plan and it's working perfectly fine, and now a trade happens that is not perfectly in line with my trading plan, it might be just out of the trading plan. If I take that trade, it's probably going to be a loser, okay? And it might not be a loser, it might be a 10, 20, 30 hour position. What I'm trying to say here is that if I take a trade outside of my plan, it's going to fail 95% of the time. Let's reverse engineer that. If you take a trade outside of your plan, 95% of the time it will fail. Why? Because if that trade was going to be a trade that actually delivers consistently, that would have been in your initial plan. So the aspects of your trading plan that you broke to take this trade that's not in line with your plan would have been in your trading plan that you made in the first place had it have been consistent over a large data set. So that means there's no point of even trying to take a trade that's out your plan, and there's no point of missing a trade that is in line with your plan, because you know that if you've got a plan, you just have to take the trade. There's no two ways about it. And what I said here as well, to finish a message off, is start journaling too if you haven't already, and remember why you're doing all of this in the first place. So I know I covered a lot there. So in terms of actionable steps that you can take right now, number one is you need to remember that the sequence of wins, break-evens and losses in line with your trading plan are not predetermined. You do not know when the next win is going to happen. You do not know when the next loss is going to happen. And you certainly do not know when the next break-even is going to happen. But you know for sure that when the next position sets up that's in line with your plan, best believe you have to be taking that. Non-negotiable. If you've tested something and you know it works in the live markets and you can see it literally forming in front of your eyes, why are you not taking it? It's your plan. And tip number two is remember that if you take a trade outside of your plan, like I mentioned before, it's likely to fail 95% of the time. When I say fail, I don't mean go for a straight loss. And please don't get the wrong idea by this. It could go for a huge win, and that's even more detrimental. And the reason why is, let's say you have a trade that you took outside of your trade plan that goes for a 10% gain on your account. You're now going to take every single trade that's outside of your trade plan and lose focus and lose confidence in your initial trade plan altogether. Why are you doing that? That does not work long term. That's not sustainable. And if that trade that you took that was outside of your trade plan worked over a large data set, it would have already been your trade plan. Tip number three, like I said, is journal. Journal, journal, journal. Journal your backtesting, journal your data collection, journal your live trading results, journal your psychology, journal what you did on the weekend, journal what you had for dinner. Get into the routine of journaling. Cool. So those were some tips that I really wanted to give you guys on how I approach the topic of making sure that I am taking trades in line with my trading plan, how I avoid myself from just taking the losses and the break-evens live and then missing out on the wins, or vice versa, which is just as detrimental, and how I actually stick to my routines, my processes, and some tips that I use as well just in my trading journey to keep me consistent. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. There's a lot more to come from me for this channel, so please remember to subscribe if you want to see my face more, and I'll catch you all in the next one.